Hello and welcome to Transfermarkt TV. I'm Manu, he's Stefan Bienkowski, and today, Stefan, our big topic is Conor Gallagher, the Chelsea midfielder, who just doesn't want to leave the transfer market rumor mill. He's in there in perpetuity. He lives there now, I think. Every transfer window he's being linked with a move away from Chelsea, which personally, and you wrote a fantastic article about this, I find quite odd because when you look at his actual numbers, he's one of their best players. And yet Fabrizio Romano reporting that Chelsea want about 60 million euros for him. Tottenham really interested, add him to the long list of clubs that have been interested or are interested in the player. What's going on here?
The madness of the transfer window, I think, is what's going on here with a sprinkling of just Premier League nonsense, I think. Conor Gallagher is one of the most interesting players in the transfer window this month because he's, at the same time, probably the most heavily linked player with a move away from his current club, but also probably one of the best performing players at his current club. You know, I'd go so far as to actually say that he's actually been Chelsea's best midfielder this season, and there are stats to back that up. So, for example, in the article, I explained that, since he really broke on the scene, Gallagher's obviously been a great number 8 box-to-box player, which means he kind of has to do a bit of everything, and that's exactly what he's been doing for Chelsea this season. Defensively, when we look at his metrics, he not only performs well, but he actually outperforms most of the Chelsea squad. So, for example, when it comes to interceptions this season, he's first. This is in Premier League, of course. Tackles 1, he's first. Total tackles, he's first. And total blocks of passes and shots, he's first again. So in terms of defensive attributes and defensive kind of responsibilities in the middle of the park, he's outperforming not just his other midfielders, but actually just about everyone else in the squad. But of course, he's also very good in an attacking sense as well. He's second only to, I believe it's Raheem Sterling when it comes to assists. He's second for key passes. Key pass, of course, being a pass that leads to a shot. So more or less an assist that didn't turn into a goal. He's third for successful open passes. And he's fifth for touches in the opposing box per game. But it's actually that kind of, that second last one I mentioned there, the third in the Chelsea squad for successful open play passes, which I was really intrigued by because, he's always been this kind of bit part player at Chelsea. He obviously thrived at other clubs on loan, but this season, he's been more or less an ever-present member of Pochettino's team. In fact, Disasi, the central defender, is the only one who's had more minutes than him in the Premier League this season. And if you actually look at his passes per game, or passes per 90 rather, over the course of the last 5 seasons, so for example, he's been on loan at Swansea, he's been in the Championship, Crystal Palace as well. So this is over Championship and Premier League, but we're talking about these numbers going from like 24 per game, up to 26 per game, up to 28 per game. Last season at Chelsea, they went up to just under 40 per game. This season, he's averaging 55 passes per game. And when you kind of couple that with the fact that in terms of like the total touches per game, he's about third in Chelsea's squad, so behind a couple of defenders, but well ahead of their central midfielders, I think it really paints a good picture of just how important Gallagher has been to this team, not just defensively, not just the attacking sense, but his all-round gameplay and just how much of the ball he demands. This entire team plays through him, and as a result, if he was to be sold this month, I guess it could be moved on in the summer as well. It'd be like ripping the heart out of Pochettino's team.
Is it because he's really one of those few assets that Chelsea have where they can say, okay, we could actually get a sizable fee here? I mean, the 60 million euros has been floated. There's lots and lots of content on this YouTube channel about how much money Chelsea have spent in the transfer window, and you can find it on Transfermarkt, of course, as well. But is this a case of, wow, we spend a lot of money, we need to clear out some assets because maybe one day we'll be back in European competitions and UEFA will come for us and we'll have to check for financial fair play? And Conor Gallagher is really one of those pieces where they could get a lot of money.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. You've really hit the nail on the head. Obviously they're not in European competition right now, but there are Premier League rules as well that they have to adhere by. There are murmurs that they kind of teetering on the edge of those kind of financial fair play rules. And even just if you kind of simply look at their transfer windows over the last kind of couple of years since Todd Boehly came in, most notably, it makes perfect sense that they are trying to kind of move on as many players now as they have brought in. For example, this summer, they've made 270 million euros in player sales, but they've also spent about 470 million on new players. And actually, if you kind of narrow in on the central midfielders that they've picked up in recent years, you're talking about Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo, Romeo Lavia, Cole Palmer, I guess, is technically counts as one as well, amongst a number of other players as well. They spent close to about 360 million euros in the last 2 years alone on central midfielders. So it's this kind of weird kind of aspect to Chelsea right now where maybe on the pitch doesn't quite line up with off the pitch, where, on paper, Chelsea have a glittering array of star midfielders who they spent a lot of money bringing to the club. But in practice, the one player who's actually outperforming all of them is the kid from the youth academy who didn't cost the club anything. And as you said, if they are forced to selling players on, they'd be really tempted maybe to sell Gallagher on, because if they move him on for 60 million euros, that's pure profit. And it really helps those accountancy sheets at the end of the financial year. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But, Chelsea are just about getting back on their feet in the Premier League. Pochettino is maybe just about to turn the corner with that team, but it looks like they might have to sell the one player who's probably done more than any other player in that team to get them there.
It's an age-old story, isn't it? That usually the players that come from their own academy are the least appreciated sometimes. And if you can cash in on them, clubs tend to do it. Chelsea do it more often than some other clubs, and have paid the price of then seeing these players develop elsewhere. The Conor Gallagher story is a really interesting one. It's one that I think a lot of people will want to follow, and you can do so on Transfermarkt. You can discuss it in the Transfermarkt rumor mill as well, whether that's on .com.us or .co.uk. Check that out. We'll be back soon with more content. Until then, cheers and bye-bye.